Welcome to Episode 14, the second half of our deep dive into ISO and SAE 21434. In Part 1, we took a product from concept to a verified design. But a vehicle lives on the road for 10, 15, even 20 years, and the attackers never stop. This episode covers the post-development phases: production, operations and maintenance, incident response, vulnerability management, and end of life. This is where cybersecurity stops being a project and becomes a commitment. Let's place ourselves on the map. Part 1 ended at a validated design. Now the product enters the world through 3 post-development phases: production, where the design is manufactured; operations and maintenance, the long years on the road; and finally, end of cybersecurity support and decommissioning. And remember the vertical from Part 1, the continual activities of Clause 8, monitoring and vulnerability management. They were present during development, but this is when they really earn their keep. Because this is when real attacks against your real product start to appear. Production, Clause 12, defends a simple but easily forgotten truth: a perfectly secure design can still ship insecure if the factory introduces weaknesses. So production has its own cybersecurity requirements. First, do not undo the design's security during assembly and software flashing. Second, provision secrets safely. Cryptographic keys and certificates must be injected in a protected process, because a key leaked on the production line compromises every vehicle that receives it. Third, lockdown interfaces. Disable debug ports and test access before the unit leaves the line. And fourth, keep the evidence records proving that production actually followed the secure process. The factory is part of the attack surface, and Clause 12 treats it that way. Operations and maintenance, Clause 13, is by far the longest phase. It is the entire on-road life of the vehicle. The product hasn't changed, but the world around it has. New vulnerabilities are discovered. New attack tools appear. 3 things define this phase. Stay aware. Keep monitoring for threats and weaknesses that affect vehicles already in the field. Respond when an incident happens out there. Act on a defined plan rather than improvising. And deliver security fixes safely, either over the air or during a service visit, which is exactly where Regulation 156 and the Software Update Management System come into play. Incident response, Clause 13.3, accepts a hard truth: an attack on a fielded vehicle is not a question of if, but when. A plan is what turns panic into procedure. The flow is detect the incident, assess how serious it is and what it affects, contain and remediate the damage, communicate to the right parties, which can include regulators and customers, and then learn, feeding the lessons back into your process. In practice, many companies run a PSIRT, a Product Security Incident Response Team. That team is the front door for vulnerability reports. It coordinates the fix, and it handles responsible disclosure with the security researchers who often find the problem first. If your company does not have a PSIRT or a clear path to one, that is a gap worth raising. Because when the incident comes, you will not have time to invent the process. Let's give vulnerability management its own slide, because it is the thread that ties every phase together. A weakness can be discovered at any point during development, on the production line, or years into operation. Wherever it appears, it follows the same loop. Detect the vulnerability. Analyze it and assess its risk, using the same impact and feasibility thinking from Terra. Treat it, fix it, or if the risk is low enough, formally accept it. And track it to closure, with evidence. The crucial discipline is that a vulnerability is never simply noted and forgotten. It is tracked until it is genuinely closed or formally accepted, and that tracking continues, all the way until the product reaches its end of cybersecurity support. This loop is the heartbeat of a living security program. Finally, Clause 14. Security has to end responsibly, and it involves 2 distinct moments that people often blur. The first is end of cybersecurity support. After this date, the manufacturer no longer issues security updates. That is a legitimate business decision, but it must be planned and clearly communicated, because owners deserve to know that their vehicle is no longer being protected against new threats. The second is decommissioning, securely retiring the item or the whole vehicle. This means wiping cryptographic keys and personal data and making sure secrets cannot be harvested from scrapped or resold parts. A used module pulled from a junkyard should never hand an attacker a working key. Ending security cleanly is the last duty of a responsible manufacturer. Let's put both parts together. Across episodes 13 and 14, we have walked the full 21434 lifecycle: manage, concept, develop, verify and validate, produce, operate, update, and end of life. But the most important point is that this is not a straight line. It is a loop. A vulnerability discovered in operation can send you all the way back to development to engineer a fix. That fix is produced, deployed as an update, and then monitored again in the field. Feedback closes the loop. Security is not a milestone you pass once. It is a cycle that runs for the vehicle's entire life. That mindset, cyclical, never finished, is the real takeaway of this deep dive. Let's recap. 1. The factory matters. Production must not introduce weaknesses, protect the keys, and lock the interfaces. 2. Operations is the long game, years on the road, with the threat landscape always shifting. 3. Plan incident response. Before you need it, detect, assess, contain, communicate, learn often through assert. 4. Track every vulnerability through one loop in every phase until end of cybersecurity support. 5. End security. Responsibly communicate the end of support and wipe secrets at decommissioning. Here is the message to carry away. A vehicle is secure for exactly as long as someone is still defending it. The standards post-development phases exist to make sure someone always is. In the next episode, we step back to compare two disciplines that must work together: functional safety and cybersecurity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in episode 15.